So you see here our 6 steps. These are very, very important because you will be basically doing that same 6 steps for 72 lessons. 32 especially, but some of them aren't quite as much. Okay? So let's talk first about selecting the new letters. And where you will come to that, we were going to use our language analysis worksheet that we've done. And if you are facilitating I'm looking at page kind of 43 and also 44, was what we're talking about right now. So you're going to take that language analysis, that the letter count that you've just done, from most frequent to least frequent. And basically that is going to be the order that you introduce those letters in your primer. There'll be some variation, but for the most part, from most frequent to least frequent. All right? So, who might have an idea of why we're going to do it that way, rather than teaching A, B, C, D? Anyone have an idea? Agnes?
I think it's maybe because it will give us the word, it will give us enough material to use for the word that they use most of the time.
Okay.
That most familiar with. I don't know.
Right, so those letters will most likely make up words easier, right? And so you will have words to use in those first lessons. And because all of our lessons include some story material, even from lesson 1. And that's one of the, we don't teach the ABCs first like you would children, right? But from lesson 1, the adults are learning to read words and sentences. So that is one of the reasons we do it this way. So you're going to take that new letter list, and Joseph, do you have the Timney handy? You were writing earlier, or someone? Hattie has it?
I was going to fill out the top part.
Yeah, but so just for instance, if I'm the facilitator of the team, then it's my job to kind of tell the team which letters we're going to be using next. So I make a plan. Now, from this point on, if you're in a Primmer construction workshop, you will always use pencil. You're okay to write your notes in pen, but when we get into the Primmer construction workshop, pencil. Because you will always be rubbing things to make changes, okay? Including this list. So this is a plan, and as we know, as you progress, the plan may change. It shifts for the situation. So for Temne, just let's say we're going to have our lessons. For right now, we'll just do 14 lessons. So for Timney, we want to look at the top, let's put the top 5. Oh, this isn't in order, is it? So for the first lesson, we'll look at maybe using, notice I said maybe using, the top 5 letters. In this case, we have 2 vowels and 3 consonants. We may or may not end up using those when we come to the actual story, okay? Lesson. Then possibly for lesson 2, we might add the next one in our frequency list. Now the idea is that between lesson 1 and lesson 2, you only teach 12 letters or 12 letter units. Okay? So because we've introduced 5 up here, means some places along the way we're not going to introduce new letters. So if we can do it, we're going to not introduce anything in lesson 3. So what was next? Did somebody write that Timney list down in the order?
We just wrote it up there.
That's what, okay, so you didn't.
I can do it though.
I can make it up as I go along.
Yeah, you can because
Okay, so let's see, S is pretty high. So then maybe for lesson 4 we put the S. So after lesson 1, if at all possible between 1 and 12, you will only add 1 new letter or no new letters per lesson. Does anybody think why we might limit the number of new letters? Some of you have had this course before. I know you know this answer. Why might we be limiting how much new material we're going to add in each lesson?
so that student will not be discouraged.
Okay, so a student will not be discouraged, right? So each lesson they just learn a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So gradually introducing the new stuff. So for S, so we've got, so let's maybe 4 and 5, let's see. Oh, that's a high one too. High. How about the schwa? And then lesson 6 we'll have a break. Now how do you spell Jesus in Timney? What's Y-I? Jesus? Okay. So you kind of want to know how you spell Jesus because you want to make sure you've introduced all of those letters as you come to lesson 12. So in this case, we've already introduced the A, the E, and the S. Right? So we'll need the Y. And so sometimes you'll have to bring Y up or one of the letters kind of up in the count to do that. And I'll tell you, we'll discuss that in a minute. Okay? Okay, so then we have, let's say, the ng and the E. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then the N. And then we'll introduce the Y. Okay, so how many letters are we introducing now between 1 and 12? So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right? Now, when we actually come to the Timney workshop, this may all switch around. Okay? Because we'll have to actually have letters that will make words that will make sentences. So we may jumble this around a little bit, but most likely these letters will all be in the top 12 lessons because they're the highest frequency in the language. So lesson 12, we make sure we have all the letters to introduce Jesus because in most of our primers, in lesson 12, we're going to introduce Jesus as one of the picture words. Now, with Muslim context, we may make some different choices, but I'm giving you the general pattern, and then you make your choices of adapting as needed. So the general pattern is, do we need to shut this door? Would that help? Okay. That better? Okay. Kenyon's lighting just went wonky now. Okay, so basically you make your plan. And now depending on how many consonant clusters there are, Timney doesn't have that many. How many total do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. I count 38. Okay, so the first 32 lessons we want to introduce as much as possible all of the letter and letter combinations. So after lesson 12, beginning with lesson 13 and 14. Now, Mende, you're going to have more than the Timne, right? So sometimes you may introduce a couple of new letters. So in this case, let's say we introduce so oh, there's an O. The O and the, let's introduce a TH. And sometimes it's good to introduce a cluster before you've introduced the separate parts of them, because then you can say, no, that's not T and H, that's whatever you say. How do you say the TH in Timne? Ta versus ta? Ta. Okay, so it's not for you English speakers, it's not it's ta, ta versus ta. Okay. Tha? Oh, okay, sorry. It's my ears. He's saying tha. My ears, sorry. Okay, so you can introduce a cluster, but what you have to watch, which we'll talk about in a little bit, if you introduce a cluster, and because we've not introduced the T and the H yet, you cannot use words with T and H, only words with TH. All right? So we'll talk more about that later. So you make your plan through lesson 32. And by lesson 32, you are having the least, so maybe the Y and the, but you know what? Your new reader, by the time you're getting about down to here, they're reading. They know how to read now. They're just adding more information on each lesson. The idea of how to read and how to put things together, they've already learned. Okay? So they can take a little bit more information now. So that's why that letter count is so important. That's our foundation for how we're going to introduce the letters and the letter combinations in the primer. Okay, you have questions on this? Any questions so far? Agnes? Oh, just a minute. Agnes?
Is it important to talk about the pre-reading? Because sometimes when you see just these first letters, you can wonder how will you make words out of just this?
So, yeah, the pre-reading is not going to teach them actually any letters. The pre-reading is just going to teach them, and we'll talk more about that when we fill out the pre-reading. But the pre-reading section of our primers is just going to be training their eye to distinguish letters and to learn the reading pattern, right to left, top to bottom for these languages. So in the pre-reading for these languages, we don't teach the alphabet like we do in the English. Okay. And the only reason we teach the alphabet in the English is because we don't have a one-to-one correlation between sound and symbol like most of the languages here do. So in Mende, if you have a symbol, it always has the same sound. Is that correct? Mende, if you have this, it's always ah. It's never ah, o, e, o. Like in English. English, it can have several sounds, right? Ah. So this sound will always be ah in Mende. So
The French pre-reading book, you have more. They have things that they can read.
correct. That's like the English, but because of the nature of French. Okay, for the most of the African languages, they're much simpler in terms of the sound to the letter, and so you don't need to do that to begin with. Okay. You want your paper back?
I will finish it.
Okay. All right. All right. Titus, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, after going through this process and you still feel unsatisfied, what do you do?
Well, when we actually get to doing the Primmer Workshop, it will make more sense. Okay? Because this is just one piece of it. So till we're actually writing the lesson, I'm not sure what else to tell you. When we get to picking the picture words, we'll refer back to this a little bit. So if at the end of the week it's still fuzzy, and then after the end of the next 2 weeks it's still fuzzy, then we'll talk. Okay? All right. Any other questions on selecting the new letters? You want to repeat once more? Okay. You'll take your letter frequency list that goes from the highest count to the lowest count. And with that, we're going to make a plan, okay, which will change as we come to writing the lessons. But in that plan, you take the top, like 4 or 5 letters, and yes.
Is it the same options in every lesson you do, or it will depend on the particular lesson story that you want to construct?
Well, part of it was we're going to be picking picture words that will teach that letter. So you don't always start with I want to make this story. You start with what words can we make with those letters, and now then what story can I make with those words? Okay? But you can't, that being said, you can make some intentional choices about which words you choose for picture words that will help you to write a story that you want to write. Okay? So there's lots of pieces that all have to, it's like building a house, right? If you just put up a wall with no roof, it's not so good. If you put a floor and a roof but no walls, nothing to hold up the roof, it's no good, right? If you put a house with no windows, it's okay, but windows are nice, right? So now if you want to put special decorations on it, that's nice but not necessary. So that we'll have some different levels like that. So to make your initial plan, you take those first highest level letters and just say, okay, we're going to try these for lesson 1, and we'll see if we can make some words with those. Then lesson 2, we may bring in 1 more new letter. We may not need to. It's going to depend. But now I want to make sure there's some lessons where I'm not introducing any new letters, so that by the time we get to lesson 12, I have my top 12 letters introduced. Okay? And then from that point, I may introduce 1, or I may introduce a couple letters or letter combinations at a time. It'll just depend on how many letter combinations are in the language. So with Timne, because we only have 36 and we have 32 lessons, we won't need to double up so much. We may do 1, 1, 1. So we'll see about that. Okay, does that help? Okay, good. And we'll be doing more with this later. So. Now, if you are doing Muslim primer where you don't want to introduce a picture word of Jesus or even the name Jesus in that early lesson, but maybe you want to introduce the name God, okay, some kind of scripture content is going to come in lesson 12, then you need to make sure you have those letters available by that lesson. Is it Allah? Is that what you use in Mende? Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, but what would the Christians say?
God.
God. Yeah. Goa. G. NG. Or E or E? This one? Okay. Okay, so to introduce God in, well, the Mindy's different, so this is Timney. Okay. But anyway, we'll talk some more about that when we get to the individual primers.
W-A there, it becomes Jehovah, Almighty God.
If you add an A at the end?
If you add W-A, no.
Oh.
It has become Almighty God.
Ah, very good. Okay.
Sorry, because that language, German, I don't know why you said that lesson more.
Right, so you may bring it up. Why has special privilege? Because it's in Jesus.
It's in the
If
13th
we bring
class.
out from down, why from down? Now, what can we replace there?
Well, just keep the other letters in their other order. It's fine. But,
I was just asking, maybe
yeah.
they can be confused to
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Right. So the only reason we bring Y up is because of our Bible content. Right. So.
I just wanted to say it's a lead consultant, the person who is leading the Primmer constructions who knows about this, who has this list.
Right.
So for them you say, I think, why don't you try this letter? Does it make any difference? But when you pull out the Y, that's okay. Y could even be up there.
Right.
When you are starting, so you might not have to pull it from any place.
Right.
But you know, because you are the leader.
Right. So that's because we're training you to be facilitators of these Primmer construction workshops. That's the purpose of our being here. You would be doing this list. You would be the one giving suggestions to the team. And we'll talk a little bit about how that works.